Hey everybody, we're going to be talking about setting up our virtual private cloud or server or whatever, some kind of system to deploy that markdown book that we previously set up. But we have to choose where to send it because there's tons of choices out there. We could use a service like AWS EC2, or there's like ECS or Elastic Cloud Service. Or there's like maybe we can do something with Lambda, or potentially we can choose Heroku or something else. There's so many different vendors out there that provide all these different supports and systems, and they all have just like three-letter names, which doesn't really help with figuring this out. So let's talk about what those are and what our options are, and then choose one. Now, of course, I've already chosen one by the end of this video, but I'm going to talk about why I chose the one that I did. So let's first talk about the three-letter acronyms that we often hear about, which is we have VPS and VPC. And for the longest time, I was kind of using them interchangeably, mostly because I would just forget about the other ones and just like it just came out. But they're very different. So if we actually take a look, there's some good Wikipedia articles about the difference between the two. I'll have these in the description for all of these videos. But as a very basic explanation here, a VPS is just a virtual private server. That's it. So imagine that you have a computer and it's a server. So maybe we have, I'm going to try to do my best to draw a 1U. The 1U is just really like a clever way of saying it took up one space in a server rack. So we have this like server here, and it goes into some kind of rack with many other servers. And this thing is running Ubuntu, maybe version 20. And it's actually something in a physical place somewhere that you can SSH into. That would be like an actual just server. A virtual private server is this in a virtual way. So I pretend that I get one of these, but in reality, I don't know where it is. I don't know what computer it is. Even if I was on the premises where the computer was hosting this, I couldn't point at anyone and say, that's it. That's where my server is. It's just there. That's what a virtual private server is. It's pretending to be this for us. Now, a virtual private cloud is basically the same thing as the VPS, but also a little bit more. They're adding a little bit more services for us. So here we actually have to like add in like maybe a little bit more of a cloud, and you're going to get a VPS as one of the services offered by this. But also we have database support. We have firewall. Maybe there's some like networking where I can have VPSs that are networked together, but not available to the general internet. And so all of these things together makes up a VPC. So we could say that Amazon is a VPC, or they provide VPC services. However, you can also just spin up a single VPS from any of these vendors if you really want to. Now, there's other services as well. So for example, we can go to Heroku, and Heroku allows us to just put a server onto the cloud, which might make it sound like it is a VPC, except we can't really spin up a VPS from it. We can't spin up our own database, but they provide them for us. So it's kind of like a VPC, but it's really more of like a platform as a service where it's a managed VPC. So we can go on and say like there's also this managed VPC, sorry, that's available to us as well. Which really all that means is we have somebody that we are paying for, that they configure, they do all of this stuff for us. Now, as you can imagine, these get more expensive the more we have other people dealing with stuff for us. So for example, having all of the different services for VPC is actually really expensive because we have a database that somebody is managing. So somebody has the computer, the server that the database is running on, they're keeping it up to date, they're making sure that it's like running properly. They're also dealing with the firewall and the networking. Maybe they're even managing our VPS for us. That's getting more and more expensive. Like, you're paying for that. So for example, Heroku had their cheapest tier is $7 per month. That's because they're kind of dealing with all of this for us. We're just handing them their server and saying, here you go, run this for us. Now, VPSs, we're basically saying, hey, give us this thing. It's more, it's potentially more expensive than running the hardware ourselves. Like, I can go buy a Raspberry Pi, which is not quite as powerful as a VPS, but I can run that on my own system. Like, I can buy a really cheap computer, and over time it'll become cheaper than a VPS, but I have to host it somewhere. I have to make sure that the hardware is running properly. So yes, it is more expensive than doing everything ourselves, but it's also not requiring us to do everything ourselves. So at some point in time, we do have to pay somebody something, even if it is just ourselves to manage it. So why would we choose one over the other? And how do we know what to choose for? So the biggest question is, what is our budget? And what is our budget set out for? If we want to spend the most money on development, and we don't want to have to spend any money on systems administration, or even potentially some DevOps tools, then we're going to want to go with the VPC. But if we want to sort of go hybrid, hey, we'll spin up our own VPS. We'll keep that updated, but it's going to be pretty low overhead because setting it up is pretty easy. But we're not going to spin up our own hardware. So maybe we can have one systems administrator, one person with DevOps skills, and then 3 or 4 developers. That you can get away with just a VPS on its own without everything else pretty easily. And so that's why I'm choosing a VPS for this project here. Is I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money spinning up and running and just basically paying for the VPC side of things. Although at my day job, I do use VPCs. But we're going to be spending here for this course. Now, what are the different vendors for this? Because you can get a VPS in many different locations. In fact, AWS provides EC2, one of the most famous VPS service providers out there. I'm choosing DigitalOcean because they have a hard cap at what they provide. So with a VPS, when you're generally charged the usage for it. So if network goes up, they might charge you a little bit more. If CPU usage goes up, they might charge you a little bit more. With DigitalOcean, they cap it. So they say, hey, you're going to get this thing. It's going to be a minimum of $5 per month, but it's also going to be a maximum of $5 per month. Now, something like Amazon EC2, I could get something that's $3.5 per month, but I could also accidentally make it more than that. I could also make it less than that, potentially too. It really depends upon how it's configured and how it's used. I don't want to have to worry about any of that kind of stuff, so I'm going to go with DigitalOcean for that. And we're going to see that it's actually plenty fast for what we're going to use it for, and we can subsidize the costs I don't know if subsidize is the right word here, but we can spread the cost out by reusing that VPS for multiple services. So if we remember back to something like Heroku, where I can say, hey, here's an Express, like a Node.js and Express server, run this application for us. Oh, I have another one, also run this one. Each one of those, $7 per month. With the VPS, I'm going to deploy 2, 3, 4, 5 systems to it. As long as I'm not running out of memory or CPU, that $5 per month is now supporting as many services as I want them to, which then definitely brings the cost of each project down quite a bit. So anyways, that's sort of like my quick explanation of what a VPS is, what a VPC is, the difference between them, and why we're going with DigitalOcean. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.